Welcome. Welcome to ALPOUGH. Happy Friday, everybody. And I want to welcome you in now and for those who are coming in later. And just want you to know that weekend is here and I wish you have a great weekend here. Today's a really tough subject here before I even get into it. Okay, I'm an adult of my spirit. I'm an adult of my mind. I'm an adult of my thought. I'm an adult of my body. I'm an adult of my love. And I give it out to you today, tomorrow, and forever. Um, Today is a tough one because I'm going to be talking about suicide. You see, there's a suicide prevention lot here that's going to be going on throughout the program. And if you are right now suicidal, to reach out for help, to tell someone. Now, as someone who reads Facebook, for example, hold on just a second. I need to turn off my phone. Here we go. One of the things that has really been disturbing me over the last couple of years, but actually more than that, is the people that have been committing suicide. And it is a phenomena that's really been growing. And over the last 2 years, it's really grown. And so one really disturbed me yesterday because people will post, somebody passed. And on this particular one, the person didn't say that the person committed suicide. Now, what's happening here is a lot of times people are doing it and they're not, they're just saying they're passed. They don't say they were very sick very long. They don't go into their health condition. They just say they left us. Okay. And to me, that is also a clear sign that that person possibly did took their own life. Okay. So today is suicide, intentional or accidental. And right now, I would probably say that if you're listening here, that you probably knew of someone who's committed suicide. And if not, you might have heard of someone who knows someone who committed suicide. Now, there's intentional and then there's also accidental. And I want to cover that first before I get into the intentional. Accidental is that because of this drug epidemic, in particular fentanyl, we have an opioid crisis. Fentanyl is the new drug out there that's being brought in, and it's 50 times stronger than morphine, which morphine is incredibly strong. And so people are accidentally overdosing. Now, so I'm not talking about these people. That's a whole nother subject on what I'm going to talk about today. So again, you've known someone who maybe has committed suicide or even attempted. I know many people who I've talked to about suicide, and I know some people who have committed suicide, and also people who attempted suicide. One was an ex-girlfriend of mine who did. Fortunately, and I mean fortunately, she got some help and actually became better of it. Okay. Um, I had other people that do it too, and also people who I've talked to about it. Now, I worked in mental health, for at least 10 years. I started working at St. John's Hospital in Santa Monica, California. Um, and so I dealt with suicide, and I worked on the unit that I worked on was a critical care unit where this is the first floor. You come on here, on this floor. So this is where you're evaluated. And so a lot of people who are suicidal and have to be watched 24 hours. So I've had lots of experience working with people that are suicidal from all walks of life. And so I've worked with adults, teens, and children. So according to statistics, suicide was if a while ago it was eight men to 2 women. Okay, and now more than anything, women's suicide is on the rise, and in a lot of these posts now, I'm seeing that it's women. I did study in other countries, especially right now in Japan. Other statistics we don't always get. Like China or anything like that. I don't know, but again, the rise is on women now. Women's suicide is on the rise. It's almost now 6-4, as opposed to 8-2. And statistics are showing that it's not decreasing, that it's actually increasing. And so my concern for everyone right now, and if when we come back to here, when I'm saying about adults, teens, and children, there is no age anymore. There's no age on what the commonality of who is considering suicide. Now, some of the causes, of course, that had it go on the rise is the pandemic. All right. And also the loss of a job, and the money. And what this is causing is isolation. And people that are spending more time alone, all right, than ever before. Now, people are going back out, but see, a lot of people are still staying at home because they don't know how this is going to end. So the isolation is what's causing this part of this inner frustration within. And what it does is it magnifies it. So you have issues that you've already been having. This makes it magnified. All right. So compounded with the loss of a job and money. Also, what's been going on is people that are in relationships are breaking up because of just being together, and the problems come out when you're, alone with someone. Okay. So loss of relationship can be an also cause. And also the loss of a loved one can also cause this. And there's probably many more. Everyone is unique in this situation. And this is why it's so important that us, in this mental health thing that people are trying to bring out more, that we understand. And some are obvious, some are not. But I'm going to give you my perspective. These are my opinion. And because I'm an adult of my spirit, the first thing I'm going to say is suicide is spiritual. It is spiritual. Because what you're thinking about is giving up what's called the ghost. Giving up your spirit and letting it leave this body that you've been given. So suicide releases the spirit out of the body. Now, remember what I say at the beginning. We can say it opposite. Weak spirit, weak mind. Weak spirit, weak thought. Weak body, weak love. So this is spiritual. Because the cause of it, suicide, releases the spirit out of the body. So the question is, why do people commit suicide? Why would someone want to commit suicide? In my opinion, the number one reason why people commit suicide is they lose their spiritual and physical value. And it's within themselves, okay? So they lose their spiritual and physical value. You see, all of us place a value on ourselves. And how that value is how we treat each other, how we treat others, and even more important, is how we let people treat us. So the loss of their spiritual value is within themselves. You see, if you talk to someone who is suicidal and you tell them you love them and they have value, if you say it 1,000,000 times, if I told you 1,000,000 times that you are valuable, but you don't believe it once, then the 1,000,000 times don't count because you don't believe it yourself. So even if they are told their value, even if they're told 1,000,000 times, they can't or won't hear it. It's like once this weakness comes over the body and it's spiritual, and then it cascades effects to the point where they're turned off and they're more concentrated on their value less and can't cross over to being valuable again. Maybe their whole life they never felt that they were. So, signs someone may be suicidal. Again, this is my study, and then also I'm giving you what my opinion is through my experience, which is a lot. So the first thing is they tell you, which, by the way, it's the easiest thing, right? It's the easiest thing, is that they tell you. Now, once they tell you, then you can go from there, all right? Call a hotline. Call your doctor. You can work from there. You almost have a plan right there because they've already said, well, I'm planning it or I'm thinking of it, okay? Now, if you think someone is, if if they're hinting or you think they are, they may not say it, but if you think they are, because a lot of us are now having experience. When I was a kid, I had an uncle who committed suicide. So it was, when I was younger, we experienced this. Our family did. So if you think that, do not hesitate to ask them. If I'm in the least bit suspicious about it, I'm going to ask them. Okay? So another sign can be they're calm to hysterical. Like you're talking to them, they're calm and then they go hysterical. All right? Or crying for hours. They just can't stop crying. And in the crying, there's hysterical. And even then there's a calm. But then again, it goes to hysterical. This is one reason and one thing is to ask them. All they can do is say yes or no. Okay? But to ask. I believe in over-communicating than I do believe in under-communicating. And when you're talking about someone's life and someone who's at this time in their life is damaged, especially during this time, we all have to change. And what we have to change is our communication. We have to communicate more with each other than we ever have. You have to be watching out for your loved ones. And don't be afraid to ask. And also, don't be afraid to tell someone if you are. It's okay. Tell someone. But it's very important who you tell. Because if you're going to tell someone, you means you're asking for help. Now, another sign could be a broken heart. This can be in a whole lot of ways. I'm not just talking about a broken heart in a relationship. I'm talking about a broken heart losing someone. Like, last year for me, I lost my beautiful dog, Izzy, for 16 years with me, and my dad. So my heart was broken. And how I made through with it was what my dad would say. One day at a time, son. Tomorrow is another day. Things can get better. One day at a time. Tomorrow is another day. So you want to identify that. Okay? Most people can be quiet about that. But all of a sudden they become pessimistic. Very, very pessimistic. Maybe they were a positive person. Like this lady who just committed suicide on my Facebook was told that she said, the person who who put it out there said, this was a lady who was happy all the time. The life of the party. You never would expect it. And then, but pessimistic, you'll see them. They're not, I don't want to do that. Now again, we all have bad days. But it's okay to ask now. We must be much more informative with each other. Concentration in conversation. They're not there. They're not there. At one time they're like always present, and it's like they're not present. And you can tell within that conversation that their concentration is not on the moment. Most people that are suicidal on living in the past and or the future. And it's very difficult for them to be in the moment. Okay? They may tell you this in confidence, that they're suicidal. And if someone is telling you that in confidence, you've got to do something. You can't let this go. This person is crying out for help. And now I know that there's other people that you've known throughout your life that would talk about it, but then they wouldn't do it. And so that's tricky, by the way. Okay? That's real tricky. And again, we're not all experts. You're not around everyone every day, each person, because we're all been isolated. So it's hard to know every day what's going on with someone. But if they do talk to you about it, do something about it. Call a suicide hotline and just get them in the hands of a counselor, which takes the burden off you, because most of us are not able to be able to talk to someone professionally down. Okay? Now, I'm not saying I'm a professional counselor, but I have talked people down. And working in mental health, they're in an environment, I may be watching them on a full shift. I'm just sitting with them so that because they're on suicidal watch. And that's how you really get to know a lot of people, is when you're doing one-on-ones, which is what I was doing. So I'm right next to the patient and we're talking because I'm going to be charting on them. Another sign may be either give away prized possessions. Okay, this has happened to me. I remember a person and she called me and said, I have something that I want to give you. This is very important. Could you come over? Like, okay. And I go over there and she hands me this Martin guitar, which if anybody knows about Martin, they make the best guitars and they're the most expensive. Now, I have a guitar. I had a couple of them, but they weren't like this. Okay. And she offered this to me. And I'm like, I refused it. And I asked her, are you thinking about doing something? Because a lot of these things that I just talked about, she was showing these signs. And I made sure that she got some help. I actually called some people because it's not in my hands. Okay? What's in my hands is to help them. All right? So they give away prized possessions. That's a sign. All right? They change their will or they write one. Suddenly. They'd never written one or had one, but then they decide to write a will. And they might tell you, I need you to witness this or something like that. And again, you have to look at all these other signs. They might start abusing drugs and alcohol. Now, this is a drug culture. This is an alcohol culture now. People are isolated. Alcohol and drugs have gone way up. And so, again, you know what the point is if someone is abusing it. All right? Again, open your spiritual eyes and understand that this is spiritual. You can feel the vibe of their spirit. That's another thing, too. But again, when they start this abuse about it, then it's also could be a combination of what they're trying to do, which is basically self-kill themselves. They go from highs to lows, like really high energy. Let's do this, let's do that, let's do this, let's do that. And then at the last minute, they cancel. Or on the phone. They're being obsessive about certain things. Maybe they're cleaning. They're getting things in order. And then they drop. Okay? Another thing would be they've repeated suicide attempts, and you just find out about it. Okay? Because you might ask them, are you suicidal? And, I'm going to ask, have you ever tried it before? Have you ever tried it before? And then they tell you, well, yeah, I just did last week. What? Yeah. They might have had a handful of pills in their hand and decided not to do it. Risky behavior. They may go out and drive crazy. They may pick a fight with someone that's bigger than them. Risky behavior, like, again, abusing drugs and alcohol. Putting themselves in situations where they could get hurt. Okay? Next, self-harm. Dude, did you cut yourself? This was one of the, I forgot what it's called, but people cut themselves. I forgot what the actual term of it is. But they want to feel pain. And sometimes the pain, right? Just dealing with the pain makes them forget about the brain. Right? Pain to forget about the brain, the thoughts that are going on with them. And that's hard to find, by the way. Because people wear, long sleeves, in July in Arizona. Avoid activities that you used to love. You used to go to the park all the time. How come you're not walking your dog? How come you're not going to church? How come you used to love your job? Why would you quit for? Okay. Obtaining a weapon. All of a sudden they got a gun. In Arizona, everybody has guns. But all of a sudden they obtain a gun. All right. Pretty self-explanatory. So these are just a number of them. There's lots more, but again, asking the question here. So now, the feelings that we are left with. Because for us, we're going to be the collateral damage of the wake that a person that we love or cared for when they split. So we have to do the afterloss. In this post that I saw today was explaining how, trying to say, I had no idea that this was going on with her. Which is almost like going, I didn't know. It was a complete surprise. So the feelings that a lot of us are left with is being powerless. This person said, if I only would have known, I would have done something. But when this person probably did it, she had clarity. Planned it, because you have to plan it. You have to have clarity about it. Some people are like, they show sign of happiness and calm before they do it. You just don't know. So we're left feeling powerless. And a lot of us have deep sadness from it, as well as physical pain of what you could have done. And then in the end, there's an anger. The anger is, why would you do that? We were here to help you. You were young. You still had so much life to live. Why? Why would you do that? And so that anger comes in. I put this physical pain. When someone is contemplating suicide, their spirit is really gone dark. This is some of the things that I've noticed, because again, for me, everything is spiritual. Everything is spiritual. Strong spirit. Remember that first. And I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about your spirit. Strong spirit. So basically the spirit almost goes blind, because it's a physical act that has to be done. So the spirit actually goes into a type of a darkness. Now, this is one of the things on why this is a spiritual world. Because one of the things, when I've dealt with people and they are suicidal, I ask them straight out, are you hearing a voice telling you to kill yourself? And almost everyone has said, yes, I hear a voice telling them to kill themselves. If you're hearing that voice now, don't do it. Don't do it. Call this hotline. Call this hotline right now. Okay? There's another day. Tomorrow's another day. See, some are harder than others, guys. And we're in a battle. And it's for our very souls. To live a full life and move on is what we're supposed to do. To love ourselves and to love others. We're in a battle. It's a spiritual battle. For our very souls. And for the people who are suicidal. And yes, this is literally one of my top 3 hardest subjects I've ever talked about. But it is real. So we're in a battle for our very souls now more than ever. Now more than ever. So in conclusion, keep an eye on your people you love. It's okay to ask them the question, how you doing? You can hear it in their voice. You can feel it in your spirit. Check on them. Let's check on each other. Because we're one, guys. We're one spirit. We're all linked together in spirit. I think I got some comments here. Tracy, always ask and tell if you are having those thoughts. There is a way through the pain ending. Ending your life takes more than just you away. It's very good. PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. A lot of us have, but it's called CPTSD. Complex post-traumatic stress disorder. Finally, cutting is a way of dealing with negative emotions and can become addicting and is a form of self-harm because it takes them off of their mind and onto the pain. So I'm getting ready. It looks like my stream here is messing up. So I'm going to get out of here while I got time. ALPOUGH. That's me. Keep an eye on the people you love. I love you. I'll be back on Monday.